History shows us that no empire, no matter how mighty or influential, lasts forever. The echoes of once great civilizations linger in the ruins scattered across continents, silent reminders that power is always fleeting. From the grandeur of Rome to the far-reaching British Empire, history is a cycle of great powers rising, dominating vast territories and then, inevitably, declining. Their legacies shape our world, but their reigns always end. For much of the last century, America has stood at the pinnacle of global influence, militarily, economically, and culturally. Its innovations, ideals, and ambitions have touched every corner of the globe, shaping the modern era. Yet today, that dominance faces unprecedented challenges. The world is changing rapidly, and America's position at the top is no longer assured. The rise of new powers like China, the resurgence of regional alliances, and deepening internal divisions within the United States are all reshaping the global order. The balance of power is shifting before our eyes. America's singular dominance is under real pressure. Economic uncertainty, political polarization, and global competition are testing the foundations of its power. To truly understand this pivotal moment, we must look back at how America rose to power, through innovation, unity, and opportunity, and consider what now threatens that position, from within and without. The story of the 21st century is one of transformation. Economics, technology, and diplomacy are all in flux, creating new opportunities and new risks. The world is more interconnected and more competitive than ever before. The central question is this: can the United States adapt to a world it no longer dominates alone, or will it follow the familiar path of empires that failed to change? The answer will shape the future for generations. This isn't about predicting collapse or decline, but about recognizing the powerful forces at play, economic, social, and geopolitical, that are redefining what it means to be a global leader. The world is watching, waiting to see what choices America will make next. In this era of uncertainty, every decision matters more than ever. After World War II, the United States emerged as a new kind of global leader. With unmatched economic and military power, it rebuilt allies and former enemies alike through initiatives like the Marshall Plan. America's vision was simple: a stable, prosperous world would be safer for everyone. It championed free trade, built global institutions, and created alliances like NATO. This order, based on rules and mutual benefit, brought decades of stability and prosperity. The dollar became the world's reserve currency, and American culture and education set global standards. Trust in American leadership was its greatest asset. For much of the world, U.S. leadership was seen as reliable and beneficial. But this trust, painstakingly built, is now being tested. The foundations of the American era are shifting. The question is whether America can renew that trust in a changing world. While America led the West, China was quietly transforming, largely unnoticed by much of the world. In the shadows of global headlines, a nation of over 1 billion people was preparing for a dramatic shift that would alter the course of history. In the late 1970s, under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, China opened up its economy to the world. This bold move marked the beginning of sweeping reforms, unleashing market forces and inviting foreign investment. The result was an unprecedented economic boom that would lift the country from decades of isolation and poverty. Over the next few decades, hundreds of millions of Chinese citizens rose from poverty. Rural villages transformed into bustling cities, and China rapidly became the world's factory, producing everything from electronics to clothing for global markets. The scale and speed of this transformation were unlike anything the world had ever seen. Today, China stands shoulder to shoulder with the United States, rivaling it in economic size and global influence. Its cities now boast skylines that rival New York and London, and its financial markets are watched closely by investors worldwide. But China's rise isn't just about manufacturing cheap goods anymore. The country is now a leader in cutting-edge technology, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence. Chinese engineers and entrepreneurs are driving innovation, making the nation a powerhouse in fields that will define the future. China's global reach has expanded dramatically through massive lending and ambitious infrastructure projects, especially in the developing world. The Belt and Road Initiative alone has connected dozens of countries, building roads, railways, and ports that tie economies closer to Beijing. Its unique model, authoritarian capitalism, offers an alternative to the Western democratic approach. This system combines strict political control with economic openness, challenging the idea that prosperity requires liberal democracy. Many countries, especially in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, now see China as a valuable partner, one that offers investment and development without the political strings often attached by Western nations. The old assumption that China would inevitably become more like the West has proven wrong. Instead, China has charted its own course, defying expectations and reshaping global norms. Rather than simply joining the existing world order, China is actively reshaping it on its own terms, asserting its voice in international institutions and forging new alliances. The world is no longer unipolar. A new center of gravity has emerged in the East, with China at its heart, influencing everything from trade to technology to geopolitics. China's meteoric rise is now a direct challenge to America's long-standing economic and ideological leadership. The competition between these two giants is shaping the future of the global order. The balance of power is shifting before our eyes. Every move on the global chessboard is watched with anticipation as nations adjust to this new reality. The United States must now contend with a formidable rival, one whose ambitions and influence are only continuing to grow, promising a future where global leadership is no longer the domain of a single superpower. As China built, America borrowed. Exploding national debt and reliance on foreign lenders have created deep vulnerabilities. Globalization and outsourcing hollowed out U.S. manufacturing, devastating communities and fueling political discontent. The promise that globalization would benefit all Americans has faded. While China invested in industry and technology, America became the world's biggest debtor and consumer. The loss of stable jobs and rising inequality have shaken faith in the American dream. This economic shift has made the U.S. more fragile and less confident in its global leadership. The contrast with China's rise is stark. America's economic foundation is no longer as solid as it once was. The consequences are playing out in politics and society. In response to lost jobs and trade imbalances, America has turned to tariffs. Tariffs aim to protect domestic industries, but they also raise costs for businesses and consumers. Retaliation from trading partners can spark trade wars, hurting American exporters. This marks a shift from decades of free trade to a more protectionist stance. Critics warn that tariffs isolate the U.S. and damage relationships with allies. The real causes of job loss, like automation, often go unaddressed. Policymakers face a dilemma: protect workers or risk undermining the global system America built. There are no easy answers, only high stakes. The challenge is to support American workers without harming the broader economy. As America looks inward, China is building outward. The Belt and Road Initiative is connecting continents with Chinese-funded infrastructure. This strategy creates economic dependence and gives China leverage over partner nations. In contrast, U.S. foreign policy has become more transactional and less engaged. America's retreat has left a vacuum that China is eager to fill. China's approach, no strings attached, appeals to many leaders worldwide. The result is a quiet but dramatic shift in global influence. While America debates its role, China is building a new world order. The competition is not just economic but strategic. The US-China rivalry extends to the hidden networks powering our world supply chains and critical minerals. The pandemic exposed how dependent the world is on a few suppliers, especially China. China dominates the processing of essential minerals for technology and defense. This gives Beijing leverage in any conflict or dispute. The US and its allies are now scrambling to secure and diversify supply chains. Rebuilding domestic capacity will take years and massive investment. The fight for control over these resources is a new front in global competition. Security, not just efficiency, is now the priority. America is not doomed to decline, but its era of unchallenged primacy is over. The world is changing rapidly, and the United States faces a new reality, one where it must compete and collaborate with rising powers across the globe. The future depends on how America adapts to a world with multiple centers of power. Reinvesting at home, tackling mounting debt, rebuilding aging infrastructure, and investing in education at every level is essential. A well-educated population is the foundation of a resilient and innovative society capable of meeting tomorrow's challenges. Innovation remains America's greatest strength, leading in AI, advanced manufacturing, and digital technologies, and breakthroughs in biotech will define the next era. The race for scientific leadership is global, and America must continue to foster creativity and research. On the world stage, alliances are America's key advantage, built over decades of trust and shared values. But these partnerships require constant effort, trust, and genuine cooperation to endure. Quick fixes and unilateral actions erode that trust, making it harder to solve global problems together. The choice is clear: adapt and lead with allies, forging new paths in diplomacy and shared progress, or turn inward and risk irrelevance, as communities and industries are left behind by global change. History warns that empires that fail to adapt decline. The lessons of the past are clear: stagnation and isolation lead to downfall. America's challenge is to learn from history, not repeat it. The world is watching, waiting to see which path it will choose. Will the US shape a new global order, setting the standards for peace, prosperity, and innovation? Or be shaped by it, reacting instead of leading? The answer depends on the choices made today, by leaders, communities, and every citizen. The next chapter is unwritten. Its story will be determined by the courage to adapt, the wisdom to innovate, and the willingness to work together.